restaurant and have a 13-year-old stepdaughter. Story 2. When I got excited about buying a new vacuum, I realized I would rather stay in on a Friday night than go out. Story 3. You're not the king of the world on your birthday. Bad things always happen on my birthday. Either my parents fight or I get yelled at. Either way, the day ends in tears and a bit of trauma every year when I was a kid. Now I'm terrified of my birthday. Story 4. When I got excited about buying a new sponge for the kitchen, I gave it a name. His name is Greg. Greg helps with the dishes, and we love Greg. Story 5. I received a substantial paycheck for an odd job I had been looking forward to. On the way home, my mom informed me that the house had been foreclosed, and she needed the money. Apparently, my older siblings were already aware, but no one was job hunting except for me, who was unaware. Story 6. I told my niece she needed adult supervision to do something, and she looked at me as if I were less intelligent than a block of cheese and asked why I couldn't watch her. Story 7. When I climbed up a fence that I usually jumped over, I looked down and it seemed very high. I decided to climb down carefully to avoid getting hurt. I began to realize that I needed to take care of my body instead of just launching myself from high places, trusting I could land safely. It was less about a fear of injury and more about understanding that my knees, feet, and ankles would not tolerate that kind of impact. Story 8. There are many negative comments here, and I was going to join in, but I decided to share something positive instead. I realized I wasn't a child anymore when I was down by the creek behind my parents' house with my kids. I told them that when I was little, I always wanted to have driftwood fires on the rocks by the creek, and then I realized I am an adult. As long as it's a safe burn day, I absolutely could have a driftwood fire with my kids. So I did. We splashed in the creek, sat by the fire to dry off, then put it out and went home. I am an adult, which means if I want to do something fun, for the most part, I don't need to ask. Sure, there are many downsides, but if I want there to be an upside, I can create that to an extent. Story 9. When my dad died when I was 11, there was a distinct change in me. I had a clear thought of, oh well, I guess I'm in charge of myself now. Story 10. I get worried about 18-year-olds using drugs in a dull club on a boring Friday night. They are just children. Why would they act so carelessly? At a festival or special party, it doesn't matter. I am always super alert about the people around me. I once had to save a 2-meter tall man because he was about to pass out. Story 11. When the doctor said, "Dad, are you going to catch the baby?" With no prior discussion, he proceeded to guide my bare hands into position. I was stunned, and it happened so fast. Suddenly, there was a baby in my hands. I knew in that moment. Story 12. I asked for identification to buy alcohol at the pub or supermarket. I spent good money obtaining this driving license, and now you won't even allow me to use it to prove my age. Story 13. When the shop assistant went out back, I overheard her say, "There's an elderly man who needs help with his phone bill." Story 14. Knowing that no one was responsible for me, I got off work, drove home, and realized that I could go days without anyone knowing what I was doing. Story 15. My parents had both passed away by the time I was 25. I have no siblings and was not close with other relatives. I had to learn to budget because there was no safety net of asking my parents for money like others I worked with would do. Story 16. When I realized I would prefer to be seated for live music events, I found that I can't stand for hours like I used to. Story 17. When my family sat me down and told me the truth about how difficult things really are at home, including our finances and health. Story 18. When my daughter was born at 740 grams, I also experienced the loss of my stillborn son, whom I carried for 3 days of the month. Story 19. I'm always going to be someone's child. The Christmas my parents gave me towels, household items, and toilet paper wrapped up was basically like saying, "Enjoy moving out." I was moving out in January. I felt devastated. I was 19. Story 20. Being kicked out onto the street on the first day of 7th grade because of the recession and housing crisis was definitely a wake-up call. Story 21. I brought a group of teenage boys to the fair. They nudged each other and pointed at the pretty girls. I found myself looking for young children so I could admire the mothers. Story 22. For me, it was having a child. The sudden responsibility for another human being and putting yourself second to them is a humbling experience. Story 23. When my dad was dying, my mom and brother shut down. I was forced to make medical and end-of-life care decisions. Story 24. My grandfather has stage 4 pancreatic cancer and is likely to pass away any day. The family has chosen me as the spokesperson and representative. I would have thought my dad or aunt would take on this role, but I guess it's time for me to step up, and I'm terrified. I don't feel ready or want to do this, but I'm not a child anymore. Story 25. Stress exists in my life. I was never stressed as a child. As an adult, I couldn't tell you the last time I wasn't stressed. I was probably a child. Story 26. The simple fact that I no longer went to birthday parties with my friends led us to spend more time at the local cinema for celebrations. We gradually drifted away from game consoles, spending less and less time on them. We kept in touch through social media, as one friend had moved abroad, another started a new job, one became a manager at a pizza place, one became a full-time parent, and another joined a religious community and no longer uses social media. We also do not engage in the joys of childhood, as we all faced many challenges together and apart. So yes, it's nice to reminisce about the better and good times. Story 27. When I watch my child and the neighborhood children play, I realize that I am the adult responsible for keeping everyone safe. However, I am also amazed by their energy level, something I haven't experienced in years. Story 28. I went to an all-ages ska show when I was 20. There were actual middle and high school students in the audience and the pit. It struck me that I was no longer a kid, so I could not rely on my youth for help when someone started throwing elbows in the pit. Now I was an adult and I had to go into the pit to ensure the kids got out safely. Story 29. When I realized I could tell people who say, "That's just for kids," to go away, I could probably get sued for suggesting, "If cartoons are for kids, you should show your children Happy Tree Friends." Story 30. For me, it was when my mom passed away. There is no other feeling like it. I have a wonderful father, and I'm grateful to still have him, but the loneliness of being a motherless mother is unreal. Attempting to step into her shoes for holidays and to be the female advice giver to my younger siblings was proof that I had to grow up. She has been gone for 26 years, and I still miss her terribly. Story 31. When girls started reacting negatively towards me and giving me side eye, I thought I was speaking normally. Story 32. I do not care about how long I have been alive. I am short, young, and silly. Feel free to criticize me. Attention deficit/hyperactivity disorder makes it hard to be an adult anyway. Story 33. When all your friends are paired up and people look at you like you're a loser for wanting to go out on a weekday. Story 34. I used to be called child or beta by my uncles and aunties. Now they call me brother or bia, even though they are in their 40s and I am half of their age. Story 35. This wasn't the question, but the moment professional athletes looked like children was when I realized I was getting older. Story 36. I have been working in childcare for about a decade. I am now at the point where I have coworkers who were once in my program as children. Story 37. I tried on clothing at Forever 21 for the first time since I was 19, and I'm 25 now. I wasn't feeling it. Even the more mature styles felt too young for me. Story 38. After the graduation party was over, my dad told me to find a job and set a date for when I would leave their home to have my own place. It was sobering, but the beginning of independence. Story 39. My first thought was that I might still think of myself as a kid. Then I realized I never had the chance to be a kid. Story 40. I had an x-ray done of my back. I couldn't move without experiencing significant pain. The x-ray revealed that I have arthritis. That was a major blow to my self-esteem. Story 41. The first time I was able to help a friend do the kind of things my parents did for me. It has been almost 30 years, so I don't remember anything except the surprise. Story 42. When people started calling the PlayStation 2 a retro gaming system, I have a coworker who has never even seen one in real life. Story 43. When I was in a needle injection class, I accidentally got my hand with it, and my finger bled for several minutes. The teachers didn't seem to care at all. I'm still a teenager, so